Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 17 of Casual Watch Talk. I'm joined by my co-host Chris. How have you been this week, Chris?
Excellent. Good evening, Sam.
We've got a couple of, as usual, we've got a couple of news stories to kick the show off with, and then later on for our main topic, we thought we would pick our ideal watches in 4 categories, which would be land, sea, air and space. And I'm going to totally do this one off the cuff, Chris. I don't know about you.
I've already started writing stuff down, and Sam's like, no, we're going to do it off the cuff.
Well, as we always enjoy starting these shows, we'll do, Chris, what have you been wearing this week? And then I'd love to know if you've had a watch obsession this week as well.
I am wearing my Bell & Ross GMT. It's my everyday. Back in the rotation, I was heavy on the chronograph for a while, and then switched over. Took it off the bracelet, put it on a NATO. I'm defending the NATOs of the world, NATO wearers of the world. You can wash them, so easier to, super comfy. And I don't know about you, but I've been trying to be in as a comfortable of a mood as possible. Everything's about comfy. You're going to meetings, lots of meetings on Skype, etc., Zoom,
yes. And
so definitely. T-shirt and shorts here, even though it's cold and raining outside.
It's been a weird old week in Orange County, because I keep saying I can't remember the last time it's rained this much, but then my wife keeps saying, oh, it was like this last year, you've just forgotten.
I think it's a little bit of experience, but there's definitely something that tells me like climate scientists should look into the fact that we're not flying planes and like 40 million vehicles are off the road. So we might be changing things a little bit. I think we got probably a year's worth of rain in the last 3 weeks, so it's been crazy.
My hometown is Manchester, which rains like predominantly all of the time, but it is few and far between. Certainly where there's many consecutive days that it rains here, certainly.
Yeah, exactly. It's not often that it's like every day for 3 days, and then 2 days goes by and then it rains again. I mean, it's been kind of like that. And then for my watch obsession, I'm going to let everyone in on a little secret. We'll do some transparency. My watch obsession has been a new elastic NATOs from Campagnato Club. And to be completely transparent with everyone, that is my company, my little side gig. It's not anything huge. It just is a place where I spread sort of my passion for motorsports. When I got into the watch hobby, I found that there weren't a lot of straps, motorsport color NATOs and straps of that nature in one place. So I said, oh, this is a cool niche. And I found a distributor and started up a little e-commerce on the side. Finally received a shipment in from Asia and have been obsessed over the fit and finish of these new straps. So they are not the MN style with the weird clasp that goes around. I don't know if you've had experience with those, Sam. And they are just a straight NATO with a buckle. And so super excited to have them and put them up on the site.
And I've reviewed these NATOs on my channel before. They're cool because they very much favour your passion for motorsport, don't they? I like that Martini Racing one. There's a vintage like Peugeot and stuff like that. And also, you're knocking them out for a pretty decent price as well. So we'll leave the link down below. And this obviously, I mean, this is sort of an advert for it, but it isn't a proper advert because I'm not using my advert voice. Right. Yes, I've not got my proper advert voice on.
Yes, today's Watch Obsession segment has been sponsored by Chris.
No, they are. You should definitely check them out. I like what you've done with them, and they're totally different than other NATOs as well. They're not your standard.
Yeah, and I tried the I wear them. It's what I would want. It's what I would want to have. You see these companies that they try to just satisfy everything with all different like PVD coatings and gold, and it's like I'm just going to have brushed stainless because it fits with most stuff. And and it's stuff that I like that I would want to wear. So take that. And it's Campagnato Club. So it's Campagnato is Italian for championship.
What have I been wearing? Well, I've been wearing that Citizen, the Eco Drive, the JDM version, the Japanese version. I love it. I honestly absolutely love it. It's a quartz, which if you'd asked me last year, I would have said burn quartz. It's got no soul type of thing. But I honestly absolutely love this watch. You should definitely check it out on the Facebook group, the Casual Watch Talk Facebook group. I've been putting pictures on there. It's titanium, extremely light. I've not scratched it yet, and I've paired it with Toxic NATO, which I quite like the look of it. I took the titanium bracelet off because it wasn't that comfortable. I think I might mention this I certainly mentioned it in the review.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. And the little gap, I definitely see that like 0.5 millimeter gap on each side is a little like, if they just did a little better there.
It's weird that they did that, because Citizen make awesome cases on their watches, so it is a shame that they did that. And then I guess my watch obsession this week, I've been trying to cool it on the watches. Honestly, I've been obsessing about watch straps. I've been obsessing about leather NATO straps, which is... Well, it's weird on twofold, because the only leather NATO straps I've ever had I didn't like, but now I'm suddenly so into it. And also,
weird.
There was an interesting subject on Urban Gentry, and again, I told you a couple of months ago I paused Urban Gentry because the comments can be up and down. But somebody asked a genuine question, saying that they were vegan and could anybody recommend vegan leather watch straps. I've mentioned this on the channel before, but me and my wife eat predominantly a vegan-based diet, but we're not necessarily... Obviously, I wear leather watch straps, so we're not philosophically vegans. We just eat that way to be healthier.
For health and versus,
Yes, yeah, but the comments on there, they were just bizarre. We were genuinely writing back saying, well, Collar Reb do a vegan leather strap. And people like... Steel. I eat cows and I wear steel bracelets because that's what men do and stuff. And it was like, dude, read the room here. Like, it again puts me off. Forums, not our own forum, which is full of only nice people, but they actually like the Urban Gentry stuff. You'd have to read it because it's
carefully curated, nice people. Yes.
These are like sensible people. The mere mention of the word vegan is whipping people up into like
off the rails. Wow.
Yeah, it was totally bizarre. But what it did find out is a whole host of straps that I'd never heard of. Like, did you know they make straps from cork? Have you heard that before?
Yes, and I was always curious if it was synthetic cork. So there's cork trees, and then there's synthetic cork as well. So interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it looks like a cork tree. So it looks like it's shaved from a cork tree, and then the other ones, Collar Reb make one that's made out of wood fibers. It's a flexible strap. It's not bracelet made out of wood. It looks pretty cool. And then there's obviously... these synthetic leathers. I commented on there. There's a strap, and there is a watch company that does this. The only problem is they make those minimalist type watches that you see everywhere. They make a strap out of... Have you ever heard of a fabric called Pinatex?
No.
Can you guess what type of leather it is? It's called Pinatex.
Well, I mean, you did mention trees, but...
it's not far off. So Pinatex, and a shout out to Mikola, who runs Man Cave Leather, because I got a sample and I offered to send him some, and I showed him a couple of pictures. He's like, dude, I cannot turn that into a strap. But it's basically leather made from pineapples. So they take the fibrous material from pineapples and compress it down. It looks pretty convincing. I mean, it looks convincing from the top. It looks like a patent leather.
As a leather. It's like
yes.
Okay.
But it's much lighter.
It's, it's going to be good to look at alternatives. And one thing you didn't mention, which I was thinking the whole time, and maybe our viewers are thinking, is with the whole hand washing and being out in the rain, that is the last thing I want to wear is a leather or anything. I have a leather NATO that I randomly got from a Timex Weekender like a year ago, that came in on a leather NATO, and the Weekender I was using for like product shots for something. And I just kind of put it off in the box or whatever. Then I randomly popped it on my Khaki King. And I rather liked it. Just it was thin enough, kind of adds a little style to it, and easy to pop on kind of thing. So
I did order some leather ones from Etsy, but I basically ordered them and then apologized to my wife afterwards because she was kind of like, "Are you looking at watch straps again?" But anyway,
everybody needs a little retail therapy.
Absolutely. Let's jump into some news stories. I've got a longer news story it has been discussed on YouTube as well, which is quite interesting, but I'll start with the two quick ones and get your view on it. We talked about watch stocks going up and down and how Swatch Group was actually their stock price was going down, but they've bounced back this week. They've come up 5%, so that's a bit of good news.
Okay.
But LVMH, who owns Tag and obviously Louis Vuitton watches, and Hublot, they've remained steady.
Okay.
So it's interesting. I mean, you can never tell what the market thinks when a share price goes up. So I thought that was an interesting one. Certainly, that's a bit of good news for Omega. Seems we've been given a lot of, or I've been given a lot of bad news about Omega.
Yeah. Just to say, it's interesting, like you said, Hublot. I mean, like you never quite know for the people that are buying those. I mean, it could be Thursday for them. Versus like a Swatch where there's no Swatch store open in a mall right now, and there's no malls open, and so that has to be a significant part of their business. So interesting.
I saw a Swatch field watch they've made today. Looked really cool, all steel, but I won't start obsessing about that one. Next one is there's Watch Pro have been reporting, and there's a couple of news stories on this week about there's a real controversy now with Baselworld. So obviously Baselworld, almost reluctantly, they delayed the 2020 Baselworld because of the COVID-19. Now, what they did, they used the vernacular postponement instead of cancellation. So what that means is that MCH, who own it, are actually sat on everybody's deposits, as if things weren't bad enough for them. And the way that they handle them, Swatch Group pulling out, etc. They're saying to people, well, look, we've only postponed it till next year. And these companies are like, look, and they're trying to do this kind of weird thing where they say, well, we could give you 85% of it back if you commit to come, or we'll give you 15% back or something. It's a real, Watch Pro have done some really cool articles on this, but basically they're sat on 20 million Swiss francs of worth of deposits. If you're not coming for the 2021 Baselworld, then it's like you've cancelled the 2020, so you've basically forfeit your deposit.
And were they thinking of doing a late season 2020 and then just jumping right into May for 2021? Is that what they, or are they saying 2021? So they're saying we're going to postpone it and just move everybody forward.
People are stating this as this could be the death of them now.
And I think right now, for some of the stuff that I've seen, and this is my personal opinion, but if a Fortune 100 company is saying that, quote, we're here to help, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think that they'll be happy to not charge you what they were going to charge you for 3 months, and then when you still can't pay, they'd be happy to add a fee to that and then take you to collections in 6 months when unemployment runs out. So there's like here to help right now, but I want to see, are they giving the money back? Are they giving people's deposits back? Are they allowing people not to, helping right now would be not forcing folks into some tight situations. And that's what I feel like a lot of these big companies right now, at least here in the United States, are doing. So it's too bad. It's
a real weird one. It probably will be the end of Baselworld.
Yeah, and also I would think that those contracts say 2020 on them.
Well, this is the legalese. They're saying that actually there isn't that much of a legal argument because they have postponed it, or certainly Watch Pro saying. So this next one is a bit of a longer story, and it's one that's been interesting me today, and it obviously links with the current economic climate. Have you heard this about Watches of Swizerland? There's a bit of a sort of not a controversy, but there's certainly some questions that are being raised about Watches of Swizerland at the moment.
Okay.
Watches of Swizerland is a big watch retailer. This story predominantly revolves around, maybe they're more popular in the UK, but they're certainly Watches of Switzerland in the US as well. They're a very large Rolex AD, probably one of the largest. They've got a bit of a reputation. Certainly, I would say this is more in the UK, and this story's coming from Paul Thorpe. I love his channel. He's a previous watch dealer. You should definitely check it out. His insights into the watch industry. Also, he gives pure business insights into what watches are worth money. He's very much a buy with your head type of guy. His content overall is awesome. It's fascinating, 20, 30 years in the watch trade or whatever. He's been reporting on this where viewers have actually been contacting him. This is mainly in the UK, I think. Watches of Switzerland, they shut their doors on the 23rd of March with the idea they were going to open on the 27th of April, but that's now been postponed to June. Now, what they've been doing is they've been calling people up who were on the list. So, you've gone in there and asked for a Submariner and they're like, oh, we'll put you on the list or whatever. And you're like, okay.
The list, yeah.
The list, exactly. Now, they've been calling people up on this list and saying, hey, we can get you a Rolex Submariner. There's one guy who was offered 3 watches that he put himself on the list just to kind of, get somewhere. But what we want you to do is we want you to pay the watch in entirety, and then when we open the store up again, you can come and collect it. So it's not so Paul Thorpe's been going through this, and there's some interesting things about this. For a start, they're not asking for a deposit and then you pay the rest. They're asking for the full amount.
They buy it and then receive it when we open the store.
Yeah, and they're not saying buy it and we'll post it to you. They're calling people up and then they're sending them a link to basically put their credit card information in. Now, a couple of people have been commenting on Paul Thorpe's channel, and he actually addressed this about, you're covered under your credit card insurance. But then somebody else commented on Paul Thorpe's channel saying, well, actually, you're not, because they're using a third-party card processing company to do this. So you might be at risk there.
And also depends on your card, like what your card gives you and not necessarily what.
Paul Thorpe's obviously, he's been saying on his channel, be very careful of like random people ringing you up and asking you for money, because he thinks that some of these ADs, they have had their lists hacked in the past, and he doesn't know where. He's saying that he thinks that Watches of Switzerland are completely above board. So the question that I've got for you is not whether this is a nefarious scam, because it sounds like it could be reasonable. But what do you think about all these people that have been sat, throughout the world on these ridiculous ADs lists where it's almost like a gift that this AD gives them even the opportunity to buy a Rolex? And now the ADs are feeling the pain. They're like ringing people up like used car salesmen and like, oh, surprise, surprise. So I'll get your opinion on that. There was a counter argument where somebody commented, well, Watches of Switzerland allegedly phoned Rolex and said, hey, we'll buy all the stock going to China, but that's just complete hearsay.
Yeah. If they're one of the biggest or they are the biggest or whatever, we'll look that up. But when that store is open, it is making a shit ton of money. And so for them to not have that store open, that means they have to figure out a way to get you to part with your cash. Feels lousy. And my number one response to that would be, the ball is in your court now. It suddenly became a buyer's market and not a seller's market. It's no longer, if their doors are closed for a month, it's oh, we couldn't get a hold of them, blah, 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 blah. People are not going to be dipping into savings to pick something like that up. I would have a wait and see attitude here, definitely.
In Watches of Switzerland's defense, they seem to be keeping a lot of their retail staff on. Now, obviously, it would be very hard for them to furlough or get rid of a lot of staff, because a lot of them, they do have sales skills as it comes to watches. Mm-hmm. But I would feel, if it was me, well, for a start, I've totally reassessed expensive watches at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, in the space of, a week in my household, obviously my stocks, which was the lion's share of my pension, and I'm not saying this is a sob story, I'm just saying is that within a week my wife got furloughed and my stock portfolio went down the best part of 25% within 7 days. So I would be seriously questioning
but you didn't sell anything. You still have, everybody, so it's not, you haven't actualized the loss. So it's still, I mean, a lot of people get kind of caught up in that, like, oh, it lost, 15%. We're like, well, yeah, but you're now, hopefully still, taking a small percentage of your income to purchase, 401k stocks at a lower price than they would be, that sort of thing. We are not a financial channel of any means, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. No, what I'm saying is I'd be reluctant now if I had my eyes on a Rolex and it meant withdrawing $8,000 from my savings in June, I would be more gun shy until we know what the economy's like.
Right.
And also I'd feel a bit put out, be like, oh, right, I came in and wanted to spend $8,000 on a Rolex and you offered to put me on this list and now suddenly
could have been on it for years.
Yeah, exactly.
And then now all of a sudden, I feel like you need to definitely reassess your situation and I assume that they would have commission sales. I would assume commission sales. I've done commission sales. So what that means right now is if I was in commission sales, I would be making my base, which would be nothing. It's like getting paid your base for if you're in food service in the United States. I mean, it's like, just bare minimum wage. You cannot afford anything, or below minimum wage because of that. So depending on the laws, states, etc. But I mean, you want to, for as much as you want to feel bad that they're going to, that's a financial situation that they've gotten themselves into. I feel like you still have to assess your own first, and then go from there. Yeah,
it's an interesting story, and Paul Thorpe covered it much better than I have here, partly because he knows what he's talking about when it comes to Rolex, which is far more than I do. Well, before we jump into our main topic here, let's just pause for a quick ad break. Welcome back, everyone. So hopefully we've got a bit more of a lighter subject for our main topic here. And Chris and I were chatting before the podcast about what watches would we pick not from our own collection that fell into the land, sea, air and space categories. And I thought that was quite an interesting one instead of doing like ideal 3-watch collection or something like that. What do you want to do, Chris? Do you want to do one and I'll do one, or do you want to go through yours?
Maybe we can go through it, but let's all right, we're gonna lay some additional ground rules here. We're gonna do price. Are we gonna talk about what you would buy, or what if money was no object?
Maybe 2 for each category then. One that we could afford and one that's an honourable mention.
So I frantically started writing things down, and Sam was like, I'm fine. He's good. So if you're good, you need to go first then. So we'll do land, and I didn't specify what that means. You can tell us what you think of when you hear that, and then what your pick is.
Land makes me think of maybe the outdoors, maybe more of like a field watch when I think about it. So I would say if it was one that I could afford, then it would probably have to be a Hamilton khaki, probably that no date, the vintage style one that they've got. And then if money was no object on a field watch, I think I would probably go for maybe an IWC.
You just threw a huge wrench in my list.
So that's my land one. Do you want me to go through my others, or did you want to have a stab at the land?
Let me stab at land. Let's see. I think field watch too. I still cannot do the compass complication, so that's out. No Seiko Alpinist for Chris. I own the Khaki King. I guess I could just cheat and pick that. No.
There's so many different variants of it.
Yeah, right. I could just take I would take the manual wind. But then you said IWC. No, here's what I'm doing. I got it. Land. I'm taking a Zin 104.
Nice.
So, yep. Zin 104. You know what? I'm going to do it in white because it'll also be my dress watch. And then money, no object. Field land. What would I get? Maybe an Oyster Perpetual.
Oh, nice.
Something that's kind of an everyday, maybe a fun color, like either the gray or the blue or something.
I love that gray dial, the 41mm with the non-Mercedes hands. I'm not a fan of the fluted bezel at all. I like the smooth bezel.
Yeah, not the day date, but the Oyster Perpetual. So
next category, C. I would say at C, obviously, straight away think of dive watches. Of course, I've not gone for any nautical inspired watches. I think for the ones that I could afford, I've been obsessed with that Certina, that DS 2000. That one of our viewers kindly posted a picture of his on the Facebook group, Casual Watch Talk, little plug. I really like the look of that. Joma Shop have got it for less than $600, which I think is an absolute bargain for that watch.
Oh, wow. Is that your pick? Is that your pick? The
yeah,
Certina?
it would. Yes, it will be. I also really like the look of that Yema, the Superman watch. I really like the look of that. TGV did a good video of it, and actually it was one of the ones that had sat the full 30 minutes of it. He did a really good with that. So those would be the affordable ones. If it was one out of my price range, although one I've lusted after for a while, would be the JLC Polaris, the Memovox one that has the alarm. Now,
I got to see this.
It's got the double, so it's got a compressor style case, so it's got the double crowns. I know. Yeah, I know AB from Watch Collecting Strategy. He's a big JLC fan, and he said that JLC doesn't have that. This isn't the iconic dive watch that he thinks JLC needs. But I love its understated look. It's more like a dress diver for sure. It doesn't have a bezel, which is probably controversial for a dive watch. It doesn't have a bezel on it, but it does have the double. It does have an internal.
You can time your dive, but your description, dress diver. Would you do black or you do the black or blue dial?
I like the blue dial, but I don't think the Memovox one comes in blue.
That's
the one with the alarm.
Oh, and I not. Oh, okay. So okay, well it looks the same. You're right. I don't think it does. But okay, but same style dial. Oh, it's got the indicator on the inside. That's kind of cool. Inner dial. It allows you to have the alarm set. Is it like a bell vibration? What is it?
I think it's a vibration alarm.
Oh, cool.
Well, I think it must be because it's a dive watch.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
I could be wrong. I'm sure somebody will pick me up on this. And it's very sort of Omega-esque when they had the alarm watch that has the inner dial that almost looks inconspicuous, but just has the little arrowhead.
Yeah.
And the whole inner part of the dial.
It has the 3 crown. At first glance, it looks like a chronograph. But then, and then you're like, oh, but then one of the crowns is smooth. So, yeah, very cool style. I've never seen it. So that was your money is no object. And then you kind of picked 2 for your...
Yeah, okay, maybe I'll just go with Certina then.
I kind of dragged you in. Well, they're both, vintage divers. So I think it's hard. I think it's a hard decision there. So, C. So my current... would be my Seiko Turtle, but what would I go? All right, well, I'll list my Seiko Turtle as your inexpensive option, and then I'm going to cheat, and I'm definitely buying this watch at some point. That is the Tudor Pelagos in blue.
Yeah, and I've been torturing you this week with where I bought my fake Seiko from that I've done a video on Wish's website. I didn't realize they're a gold mine. They're a gold mine for fakes, aren't they? I was joking with Chris before that they've predicted what Baselworld might be, and there's a fake green Pelagos on there.
Yeah, green Tudor Pelagos. A couple of days ago, I saw on one of my forums where people were joking about the fact that they did the same thing that they did with your fake Seiko, where they used real pictures of it, and it was $110, and I was like, So no, the Tudor Pelagos is not $110, and there's no green one, and there's no GMT one, because if they did a GMT one, I might pick it up. So, all right, moving on to Air.
I've already mentioned IWC, so I won't pick an IWC. I think for ones that I could afford, I mean, Chris, who's our resident military expert on the channel, who we interviewed a couple of weeks ago, he had a great case for the ones that he used were Citizen watches. So those Citizen, the Blue Angel ones, the aviation watches have a lot of features. But as I'm not a pilot, I quite like the Hamilton, the khaki Air ones that they have. So they do some quartz ones. They do like the X-Wing version. So I would probably go with the khaki or khaki Aviation X-Wing Auto Chrono for the one that I could afford.
Mm-hmm.
For the ones that I couldn't afford, I think I would have to go with the Rolex Air King. Not technically a pilot's watch,
Really?
but it's got air in the title.
Air King?
I like the Air King.
Yeah, I can't get over the there's a YouTube channel, ID Guy, that pointed out that and the Air King's the one with the all the numerals on it, right?
It's got the Arabic numerals on it, yeah.
If they had done 05 instead of 5, it would have balanced the dial out. But because they just did 5, it like looks weird to me now. And like he pointed this design element out to me, and I was like, oh god, I'm gonna see that forever. So
I know what I see what he says.
Yeah. So not really a fan of that, huh? But that was money of no object. Otherwise, you would go with the khaki. Now the is that a they offer them in chronograph as well, right?
Yes, it is a chronograph one. Yeah, this one I've picked is one of the quartz ones because the mechanical one. This is going to sound really weird to you. The mechanical one that they do, if you look at it, its date is on the other side. So the date is on the right, the left-hand side of the dial. And it's because the movement is upside down.
Right.
They've turned the movement upside down, and for some reason that really just like weirds me out.
Yeah. From a watch manufacturing standpoint, they didn't have to do that. They could just print. They could print a dial with it on the other way. I don't know. That seems like a design that they chose to do that way.
They definitely did because it's got the 2 inner rotating bezels on the automatic one. So I kind of went with the quartz one for that one.
Because usually the day wheel goes all the way around the dial because you need that much space to have 31 numbers. So it kind of doesn't matter. Like you can, as long as it's printed in the correct orientation, you could do 1 at 6, 1 at 3, 1 at 4.5, like whatever. As long as it's printed parallel. Although there are some companies that don't. They just print it horizontal and then it kind of looks sideways in the window. But the day wheel sometimes on some of the chronograph movements smaller and is sort of particular. So on the Valjoux 7750s, it's kind of one or the other for a lot of the options. So like if it's a GMT complication, you can't have you don't have enough room to have a day wheel in there, and other things like that. Or like this khaki, maybe they had to flip it because they ran out of room.
Because it's got 2 inner rotating bezels, they've obviously put those on one side and then the chronograph. Mm-hmm. So for air, what would you pick?
I feel like this category I have the most of. This is a very hard category for me. This has stumped me, I think. So looking at my list, I would get a GMT. And then I was thinking like, oh, there's got to be a GMT chronograph out there. And so I was like, oh yeah, but I have one of those too. So it's like the most category. I
didn't think of GMT. I didn't think of GMT for air. I could have totally gone for the root beer GMT for my expensive one.
Would you like to change your answer?
I would. I'll go with the root beer GMT Rolex. Because it's that one that is going to go really out of fashion and people are going to be like, why did you buy a Rolex that looks like that? But then it's going to come really in fashion and people are like, oh, wow, you made like a bold choice and it looks really cool.
You're right. You're going to show up in your MC Hammer pants and you're going to be like, yeah, that's right.
Say that I would go edit the Air King thing out, but I won't do it.
No.
I would have a guilty conscience.
Own it.
Own it.
All right. For me, hard category, because I think that a lot of what I've collected already that sort of fits in my Bell and Rouse stuff, that is Pilot's chronograph, that is GMT, that is that sort of stuff. Let's see. All right, I've got a pick. Here's my pick. I would go with Damasco. Are you familiar with them?
Is that the family-owned company where they hand build these watches? They use ETA movements, but they look to be incredibly well made.
And they've got a great YouTube video about their factory, and they're branching into, we talked last week, maybe the week before, about the technology that's for manufacturing that's cutting edge. And this company is really taking advantage of it. So they're starting to make as much stuff in-house as they can. They have a line that I would love, which has the silicon hairspring. So they have like patents and stuff on it. They're making their own silicon hairsprings, and they're putting them into ETA movements.
Yeah.
But they're also piecing as much of their stuff together with it. So it's pretty fascinating. I think I would do, let me just, before I commit, I'm going to check the model number.
The thing with Damasco is they're German, are they? I think they might be German owned.
Yes.
They're in a difficult price bracket. They're in that Zin type of 2,000, 3,000 price bracket, I think, where there's a lot of competition. When I had that kind of money, I went with Tudor, but that's one of the watches that I know they're incredibly well made, but again, it's when you become passionate about watches, you realize how well they're made, but I don't know whether...
Tricky price point. So, they're doing like submarine steel. They're doing some of the same stuff that Zin is doing. I don't think they offer it with the silicon hairspring, but I would go for a DC-80, which is their central chronograph. Instead of having a small minute timer, there's a large minute timer that ticks off, so you can look down and read how many minutes it's been quickly. So it's like a four-hand watch, DC-80.
And is this one of the ones that has, because they do some with like blue dials, orange hands? It's
got some color options.
They're amazing. If anybody's listening to this that hasn't checked Damasco out, their color palette is quite fantastic. I think very nice, sort of matte colors, solid colors, not gradient dials. They're beautiful. They certainly look like an instrument for telling the time.
Yeah, an instrument, exactly. Pilot instrument, and not even what it used to look like. You look at these things and it's super purpose built, so that's cool. Yeah, that'd be my pick. I don't know. For money is no object. All right, let's see. I want the IWC Portuguese perpetual calendar. Portugueser.
I called it Portuguesa in one of the things. I don't know whether my accent, it sounds like some kind of Portuguese hooligan, but somebody corrected me on it, and somebody no, it is called the Portuguese, okay. Depending on how you.
I didn't want to. Yeah, it's Chris and Sam pronounce watch names.
You'd be the worst.
I know. Right?
Worst.
It looks like gray dial. I see $41,000. So yeah,
nice.
That would be my no object.
So space is the final category.
Yes.
I would say affordability. Now, this would be a push for me, and I hope to own one day. I would love to own that Fortis Cosmonautis, the Roscosmos version, just because it is so iconic. I mean, even I think NASA astronauts wore this at one time as well, or certainly they test piloted with it. But it is that iconic Russian. I mean, even though it's a Swiss watch, it looks like it's designed by a utilitarian. It looks like it could be Russian designed. I have always liked the look of this. I made a mistake a long time ago buying the B42 that didn't have the chronograph on it. I should have really splashed out because they have gone up in price. I think they're close to like $3,000 now, where you could pick them up for around the $2,000 mark. On the large side, for sure. I think they tout it as 42 millimeters, but it has got some depth to it. So that would be the one. It would be a stretch, but that would be my affordable one.
Yeah. And also a good point, that is space certified. Yes. That's 3K, but you're getting a space certified. So like the factory, the next one that comes off the factory line happens to go into orbit. That's the kind of thing you're getting there. Which is cool, which is very cool.
And then money, no object. This doesn't take any thinking about from me. It's got to be, again, not only is it going into space, current space model, but it was designed by astronauts. It has to be the new Omega, the Speedmaster Skywalker X33. Just love that watch.
You have stolen my pick.
Oh no!
Oh yes.
It's a stunning. Well, maybe I'll go for the regatta one that's got.
No. You have to go. No, you got to go with the real thing. You have to go with the real thing. If you are, and Sam, you nailed it. if you're watching NASA TV and astronauts are floating by cameras in space on the International Space Station, half of them are wearing that watch.
Yeah.
I mean, the mission timer and all of its little functions, I played with it at the AD for about 15 minutes and then gave up because it comes with like a user manual. It's you can set multiple stop, multiple start stop. You can set multiple times.
Yeah, mission elapsed times,
chronograph times, countdown timers, alarms. The alarm. I was watching some interview with one of the astronauts, and they were talking about the alarm on that watch, and they're like, it's the loudest alarm ever because it has to be. On the ISS, all the fans are running to keep the equipment cool, and all the equipment is running, all these motors and pumps and stuff are happening, and it's just, they say it's at least 90, 100 decibels of sound up there all the time. And so you need something purpose-built, like I said with the Fortis, rolled off the factory and onto NASA's collection. So
yeah, and cool. I would even go for, and I have flirted about buying one of these, is the original X33, the original one that doesn't have the new one has like a black dial to it and with a negative display, whereas even the old one, because I mean, I make YouTube watch content and I love it, but one of the best YouTube watch videos you will ever see on YouTube is the astronaut with one of the original X33s fixing it on the International Space Station with duct tape.
Yep.
I mean, this thing is a utility. This isn't, I mean, he's fixing it with a screwdriver, a piece of duct tape, taking it all apart in zero gravity. Amazing.
From what I remember of that, they went back and changed the design of the stopwatch hands after that in order to make it so that like that wouldn't happen, that they were like freaking out because that wouldn't happen. But just the fact that you could just like, yep, we're going to take a screwdriver to this. This is a tool. We need this to finish the mission. Is super fascinating.
I just love it. So since I pinched your design.
Right? Oh, okay. All right. So here comes the comeback. Okay, I just have to find the model. Here it is. I learned about this watch when I built the Space Turtle. I learned about it sort of as I was building it because some folks had said to me, Seiko makes a space watch, right? So I said, the Pogue, the yellow. Okay. And they're like, no. The other Seiko space watch that you may not be familiar with. Seiko was commissioned by a private space tourist. I think it'd be the best way to describe this. I can pull up the details, but Seiko was commissioned to build a watch for Richard Garriott in 2008. He was one of these guys that developed video games in the 80s and had like tons of money from Electronic Arts, etc. And so he wanted to go to space and could afford to get a ride to space. And so he commissioned Seiko to build a watch for him. Not only did Seiko do a small limited run of them, but they built a bunch that you could buy. And that's the Spacewalk Spring Drive, the SPS 005. It's a bullhead chronograph, but it has a Seiko spring drive movement in it. Crazy accurate. Just, 15 seconds a year spring drive. Power reserve indicator, day, no date, chronograph, and GMT.
This is like nothing. This is like no Seiko that you've ever seen.
Exactly.
Wow. It's almost got like a what looks like a brass bezel, but it must be some. Wow, and they're going for quite a lot. They're going for. I mean, there's one here for like $80,000. So I don't know if this is just a.
Yeah, so they made the version. They made one that's pretty similar that I would also accept. So we'll work backwards. That's my money no object. We'll work backwards. The Landmaster Spring Drive SBD B015. Right now, $2,690 in stock. This is a very similar design, and I would also accept it. Not a chronograph, but similar design. Comes with it. So spring drive movement, GMT, pretty cool watch.
And it's 26,000 or 2,600?
2,690 on.
Oh, wow. That's cheap right for now. A spring drive.
Yeah. Yeah. When you see it, unless you've seen the Space Watch, you see this watch and you're like, who would buy that? And who would buy that is someone who really wants the space version.
Oh, I can see it now. Yeah, it's a bullhead GMT, except there's obviously no pushers at the bullhead. It's just the crown, I imagine. Yes.
Just the crown. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, pull two deep cuts from Seiko for Chris's space.
Done,
to redeem himself. Thank you.
I threw you that curveball of the X33 there. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we'd love to know what your picks are. Maybe I'll put this. I will. I'll put a poll on the YouTube group, which is Casual Watch Talk. You'll find me and Chris on there, commenting away. We'd love to have you over on that Facebook group. So, guys, I hope you liked our picks there and the news stories. Of course, this is all our own opinion, especially the story about Watches of Switzerland. Please don't sue me. This is my own opinion. As always, we really do appreciate you listening. Thanks again, Chris.
Thanks, Sam. Had fun.
We'll see you all next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.